Wu Chang. Nah, wait. Wu Chang? Is it Wu Chang?
Wu Chang,
Is the best Souls-like of 2025. Wait, when was Kazan released? Okay, never mind. Anyways, Fallen Feathers is indeed a Souls-like. They weren't lying. There are those annoying little mobs from Elden Ring and Dark Souls, alright? Those big dumb guys from Sekiro are also present. Mobs that are more difficult than some of the bosses? Check, there are also some of those. Is it a good game? Yes. Does it have problems? Absolutely. But it does more things right than the occasional small issues. Don't worry though, we will talk about everything. That being said, I need to boost engagement, so maybe I should start milking the never-ending big brain pirate software drama? Nah, not yet. That day may come, but no, not yet.
This isn't about all the things you did wrong. It's about me apologizing. Okay, then apologize. I just did.
When it comes to Souls-likes, I'm quite picky. I will devour any FromSoftware Souls game, but Souls-likes on the other hand, if there are 100 Souls-likes, I dislike 95 of them. Genre is overly crowded with quick cash grab, no passion, clunky, wannabe Dark Souls ripoffs, but lucky for the player base, Wuchang is one of the good ones I would put in the same category with Lies of P or First Berserker Kazan. World building is a crucial part of Souls-likes. Does it shamelessly copy the dark, depressing setting of Dark Souls? Not really. Level design is one of the strong points of Wu Chang. Areas are usually densely packed with content and branching paths that will lead you to all kinds of annoying places. While the variety in map and level design is nothing on par with Dark Souls 2, there are so many distinct locations. You will explore underground locations, snowy areas, dark spooky places, jungles. You will also end up in Tahiti with Dutch at one point. A lot of cool locations to see, and it is definitely one of the strong points of the game. It has a good map. Is it linear, you may ask? Well, I think so, yeah. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. While Elden Ring is a rare exception, not every studio can achieve such a feat. And semi-open world, linear games are never inferior to the open world games as long as they are done right. I'm throwing the term linear a bit loosely because it is usually a bit more complex than that. As I said, there are so many paths at any given time, like this path goes somewhere. There are stairs leading up that way, and there are 2 other paths behind me I haven't explored yet. So, if you like exploring, you will have great time. Oh, never mind, it's just where I came from like half an hour ago. But my point still stands. There are a lot of different paths, a lot of locations to explore. Map itself feels massive, but it is tightly packed in a small area, which is something I actually appreciate a lot. Like, I don't know if you played God of War 2018, but I loved how you would always return to the same locations, but it would be slightly different because of the changing water levels and such. Well, Wu Chang's map doesn't really change that much, or actually it doesn't change at all, so I don't know why I gave that example. But anyways, Wu Chang also leads you back to similar locations through clever shortcuts all the time. Like this starting place, there's a shortcut that cuts 15 minutes of running now. Pretty cool. Or this tree over here. It's a shortcut to the temple, and there's a bunch of other doors that will eventually become a shortcut. Level design is great, it may feel overwhelming at times, but it is better to have detailed levels than filler, empty, repetitive corridors. And speaking of locations, let me point out bits that frustrate me. The amount of NPCs in each location. I believe within the first hour of the game I saw more NPCs than I interacted with in the entire Dark Souls trilogy. What I love about Souls storytelling is the fact that games don't rely on cinematics and long dialogues to tell you the story. But Wu Chang goes all in with the NPC density. Your first 15 minutes will be spent talking to NPCs. It's just not a good time to introduce so many NPCs right at the beginning of the game. Like, I just started the game, took 5 steps, I know nothing about the game world, I don't know a single location. But NPCs are already telling me to go random locations and fetch items for them. It's like visiting another country, and right at the airport some elderly guy asks you to do his groceries somewhere downtown. Like, the directions you gave me mean nothing. I don't know anything about the game world, so stop telling me to go locations when I just started the game. There were so many NPCs and questlines right at the start that I stopped tracking after the 5th NPC. I ended up forgetting the objectives 5 minutes later anyway. Like, This little guy over here. Apparently I triggered a questline somewhere at one point and even collected the item needed for it, but I had no idea, I was totally lost at that point. So be ready, there will be so many NPCs and so many questlines. It can be a good thing, but it will be overwhelming when the game is throwing so many NPCs right at the start of the game. So you better start taking notes whenever you start talking to NPCs in this game. Another thing, well, it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but the distance between bonfires is crazy at times. Sure, shortcuts will often fix the problems, and boss fights don't really have long runbacks at all. But the bonfire density reminds me of Dark Souls 1 and 2, which is, not a bad thing, really. You have to play carefully all the time and manage your healing, because once you leave the bonfire, it may actually take half an hour before you find a new one or return to the first one with some shortcuts. It adds some great sense of exploration, but be ready, there will be a lot of distance between bonfires. It doesn't feel unfair, but you can say each bonfire placed in the game probably cost their CEO some money, and that's why there are rarely any bonfires. But I think it's refreshing to have less bonfires than needed. Now let's talk about the combat. After all, it is one of the most important factors in a Souls-like. After playing a Souls-like for a bit, you can immediately tell what was their inspiration. Lies of P leans towards Sekiro and Bloodborne. Lords of the Fallen, not the garbage one, is inspired by Dark Souls 2 and Demon Souls. Wu Chang, on the other hand, doesn't really fit in with any Souls game. Obviously, dodge, stamina management, light and heavy attacks are one thing, but in its core, Wu Chang doesn't play like Bloodborne or Elden Ring or Sekiro or any of the Dark Souls. If I need to make comparisons, I would say maybe it's similar to Nioh. It's a bit arcadey and skills combos matter more than avoiding hits. Combat itself is actually quite good. There's a good weight behind hits, animations are super smooth and clean, and enemies are not lobotomites. Even the weakest ones will actually dodge your attacks. One thing I don't like is how weak the stagger is. Most weapons in Wuchang have long combos. A single input will often trigger a multiple hit combo, like spears, axes, one-handed swords. They all have long animations that take almost 5 seconds to finish, but those attacks rarely ever stun or stagger the enemy, so those cool attacks almost always end up being useless, because while you're still swinging your sword around for the 6th time, enemy just slaps you right back. You always end up taking damage. I ended up playing most of the game with one-handed sword, but the moveset was an absolute nightmare. Once again, animations are incredibly good, they look amazing, they're so smooth, but the first move in the light attack chain triggers a 2-hit combo, but not only is the reach comically short, you almost always get stuck in a long animation that does almost no damage. I ended up spamming dodge attacks just to avoid the light attack combo. That's how bad the moveset was. I said combat has some arcade elements, and this is the part that elevates Wu Chang's combat. Now the game throws a lot of terms, buffs and debuffs names right at the start, so don't even bother memorizing them. Basically, if you time your dodge in a sense a parry would, you receive a buff called Skyborn Might, which you can use to empower certain attacks like weapon skills, or you can even use them to cast spells. There are more ways of accessing this buff, and that's why I mainly played with one-handed swords. It just generates the buff passively in the background. There are skills that will give you massive iframes, there are skills that will deflect hits while dealing damage, there are skills that block. Yes, block is a weapon skill, so you can't block with every weapon. It just works. But the core of the combat is simple. Generate charges and then unleash anime combos. The best part is you can swap back and forth between your weapons using charges, and you will be able to spam multiple weapon arts. It's just amazing, I don't know, I like the combat a lot. Overall, combat is great. Animations are some of the best, super high quality. Enemies are smart most of the time, unless you spam ranged attacks from high ground, like this guy I shamelessly cheesed. And the magic system. Well, it's not super complex or detailed, but it fits the gameplay loop perfectly. You don't need to hold extra equipment to cast spells, and you don't need to worry about mana or spell limits. Once you get the buff Skyborn Might, you can just fire up spells even during mid-melee combos. And some starter spells are even overpowered, like this melee spell that you can get almost right at the start of the game after beating a boss. It will instantly break the posture of almost any enemy as long as you hit them right in the back. And this early game range spell is so good that you can obliterate anything from distance. So the spell system is quite good, nothing complex or over the top, but it complements the combat just fine. And finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room, performance. If you go to Wu Chang's Steam page, almost all the negative reviews are about optimization. Game is genuinely good, but once again, its success is overshadowed by the optimization. Personally, I'm playing on a quite capable PC with RX 9070 XT, so I didn't have any frame issues. And as for stutters, I was only having a couple of micro stutters when I was entering a new area and the game engine was loading it in the background. That being said, one suggestion I can give to people with high-end GPUs, limit your FPS to 60. Trust me on this one, you don't want to have more than 60 FPS. Without an FPS limit, my power usage was hitting plus 300 watts, and once I locked it to 60 FPS, power consumption was down to 85-90 watts, so trust me, that extra 40-50 FPS you will get is not worth all the extra power you're wasting. I can't comment on how the game runs on low-end PCs, but all the angry Steam reviews are definitely a sign. But that being said, the game is blurry, like, it is really blurry. Wuchang in ultra settings looks amazing as long as you're not moving. Bamboo trees are almost photorealistic, textures look great, lighting is top tier most of the time, and overall this is one of the best looking Souls-likes I have ever played. But man is it blurry. There's a built-in scaling, so even if you disable FSR or DLSS, you still can't get rid of it. To describe the intensity of the blur, think of motion blur. It's a setting almost anyone hates, right? Imagine you set the motion blur on ultra and it applies to every single frame on your screen. If there are a lot of small visual effects happening on your screen, blur becomes a nightmare. In one or two bosses, I actually couldn't keep up with the boss because I was overwhelmed by the constantly changing resolution scale during the fight. I'm hoping they will remove the mandatory built-in scaling because game looks beautiful, and this band-aid type quick optimization fix just ruins all the effort and hard work developers put in while designing such a gorgeous looking game. Overall, I believe Wu Chang is one of the best Souls-likes ever made. It ticks almost all the right boxes. Smooth, high-quality animations, great detailed combat, good boss fights with unique designs, interesting story, well-designed map with impressive art direction. This is not another Souls clone, it's a great game that tries to do its own thing within the Souls genre rather than blatantly copying FromSoftware. If you like Lies of P, Kazan, Lords of the Fallen, give this one a try after some performance and optimization fixes, because it is definitely one of the better Souls-likes out there. Well, I will stop yapping for now. Like if you liked, or not. Leave a comment below, could be related to Wu Chang, or post a cake recipe if you want to. I don't care. Anyways, I will see you on the next one. Bye.